It's a happy season for Toaru Majutsu fans as the highly anticipated third season is finally airing, and we also got announcements for a third season of Railgun and an Accelerator anime adaptation. So I figured now would be a good time to talk about one of Kamachi's less popular projects, and the only one out of the god knows how many he writes aside from the Toaru series to ever get an anime adaptation. Today we'll be talking about Heavy Object, and why I think it's pretty cool. As I pointed out, Heavy Object is one of Kamachi's many light novels, and it got an anime adaptation by JC Staff, the same studio responsible for the Toaru series adaptations back in 2015. It tells the story of Quenthur Barbotage, an engineering student who works for the Legitimacy Kingdom, one of the four nations that rules the world in the future the series is set in. In this world, war was changed forever by the invention of the titular heavy objects, gargantuan vehicles that dominate the battlefield on a scale that has never previously been seen before, to the extent that not even nuclear weapons are able to stop them. Owing to this, the new superpower nations of the world are those who are capable of producing these objects, as fielding them is the only way to counteract an enemy object on the field of battle. That is, until one day, when the Legitimacy Kingdom's pilot, Melinda Brantini, gets captured by the enemy, leaving Quenthur and his trusted friend Havia tasked with the mission of rescuing her, and they accomplished what nobody had previously thought possible. By using his knowledge of engineering, Quenthur manages to decommission an enemy object by himself, a feat that would change the way people view these weapons forever, as they are no longer this indestructible, unopposable force, and the story focuses on the changes that this revelation brings to the geopolitical landscape. Since we're on the topic of objects, let's talk about the elephant in the room. They are not your typical mech. Kamachi has stated that instead of going for the usual Gundam-style bipedal mech that is so ubiquitous in anime, he wanted to go for a more pragmatic approach to their designs, thinking about how an ultimate mobile weapon will look like in real life. They are normals, regularly being more than 50 meters tall, and instead of maneuvering around the terrain, they are built to just trample any and all obstructions in their path. Their normal chassis allow for overwhelming firepower, and their round shape is owed to the Onion-style layered armor system that allows them to sustain even nuclear blasts. This is a bit of a divisive topic from what I've seen and being discussed online, but I personally love how the objects look. Their function over form designs really drive home how they're a machine made exclusively for battle, and their sheer size makes them very imposing. That being said, I have seen people say that they're just ugly and stupid looking, so I guess to each his own. This is also a good time to point out how the world of Heavy Object is surprisingly well built. It's not extremely deep world building, but it's enough that you can get a general vibe for each of the nations in the world, and it really works to put the stakes of each battle into context to make them more meaningful to the overall narrative. This is a Kamachi novel after all, and he has proven with Index that the dude has a knack for imagining creative worlds. Despite the focus on these machines of battle and a world perpetually at war, you'd be mistaken to think that this is a very serious show. The characters tend to be pretty lighthearted, especially Quenthur and Havia, who have a very buddy cop-like chemistry, one that you don't always see in anime. They're very dude bro-like in the way they talk to each other and value their friendship, which really makes you believe that they're real friends as you watch the show, as they constantly have each other's back through their worst situations, but also do not skip on pulling each other's leg every once in a while just for the sake of being a bit of a douche. Watching their antics as they concoct plans that get progressively more ridiculous and more costly to the taxpayer is definitely one of the highlights of the show. Take this battle for instance, where Quenthur places explosives in a sack filled with diamonds, making for a very sparkly and deadly frag grenade. Sprinkle in some of Kamachi's trademark seemingly out of place fanservice moments, and it makes for a show that walks the line between stupid and just serious enough to be entertaining. The plot progresses almost like a video game, as with each episode they're faced with a more troublesome object, each with their unique capabilities. The battlefields in this show range from snowy fields to episodes set entirely in the Amazon jungle. If you like the classic mech show formula that something like Gundam or Code Geass have of having to figure out an enemy's weakness mid-battle and trying to exploit it, you'll probably enjoy the spin that this show puts on that formula, mixing pragmatic realism with wacky solutions to problems. That all being said, there's a pretty big flaw in this show that I really have to point out, and that is the directing, more specifically the fight scenes between two or more objects. Unfortunately, they're almost always shown by themselves, and without a point of reference it can get pretty easy to forget just how big they are, or in some really bad cases it can even look like the battle is taking place in a completely different location from where the other characters are. This does get a bit better as the show goes on, but it's still large enough of a flaw to have bothered me. On the voice acting side of things, I'll admit that there are no roles in my opinion that are very standout for this show. It really isn't an emotion-driven drama or anything like that, and every character is played competently, so it suffices. The only one I'll point out is Natsuki Hanai as Quinther. He reminds me of Hiroshi Kamiya in the sense that they're both often cast as cool looking pretty boys, but in my opinion both of them really shine in comedic roles, which is the case here. Him and Kaito Ishikawa, who plays Havia, do a pretty good job with their comedic lines, which is one of the reasons that make Quinther and Havia's relationship so believable and enjoyable. If you enjoy mech shows and have enough of an open mind to accept these very non-traditional mechs, and you also don't mind a healthy dose of fan service and jokes about bureaucracy in your anime, Heavy Object is a very entertaining show when it comes to battles and characters, and that's why I think it's pretty cool. As always, if you liked this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.